Us with the introduction of the late items, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We're going to be deleting the report under item 9B. That's for 215 Newcastle Avenue. We're going to delete 21 Summit Drive and 514 Bradley Street from item 9D. We're also going to add a delegation to item 9E, Mr. Daniel Appel. We're going to also add the following to the staff recommendation on item 9F, and amend the budget by law to reflect the proposed transfer. We're going to add delegation from Mr. Mike Horn to item 14A, which is Councillor Bestwick reconsideration of resolution related to LA 108. And also we're going to remove item 4 from item 8F, which is 131 Loxley Place, I believe. That's it, Your Worship.
Yes. Go ahead. Yep.
Your Worship, I'd like to add an issue to under presentations. It would be 5C, and it's Mr. Jason Manning, who is doing a 20,000 kilometer bicycle ride for Water for People, and he has a short video and a small presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. What I might do, Councillor Kipp, is this call on you to introduce him when we get to that point?
Yes,
Thank you.
there's a member of the board here to produce it.
Okay.
To introduce.
So if I could ask for, sorry, Councillor Bestwick.
If I could just ask Mr. Ferrero, did you indicate that 14A was removed?
No, Your Worship. All I'm doing is adding the delegation from Mr. Mike Horn to the item. So the item is still on the agenda if you choose to, and then if that's the case, Mr. Mike Horn would like to speak for it.
If I may address that, Your Worship?
Please, yeah, go ahead.
To save Mr. Horn. The item is going, I wish to remove the item from the agenda for this evening. I was brought it back on the anticipation that we would have a full table of council here this evening, and we don't. And that being said, I would like to remove 14A from this evening's agenda, Your Worship.
Okay. So, and we'll let the record show that. Now, you just want to clarify the position of the delegation then? Now that it's been removed, there'll be no delegation?
That's correct. So what we're doing, Your Worship, is we're going to remove item 14A from the agenda. That includes the delegation. And the next, we're going to add the presentation for Councillor Kipp suggested. And if you get a motion to adopt the agenda as adopted, then we can move forward.
So moved.
Moved and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into the adoption of the agenda as amended. So moved, Your Worship. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion. And move into the adoption of the minutes. That's A and B together, if we could. So moved. Second. All those in favor? We'll move straight into presentations. And the presentation, I would like to start off by acknowledging the group that's here tonight joining us from the 2014 BC Summer Games Board of Directors. And I've just got a couple little things I want to read out before we have them come in. And the 2014 BC Summer Games was an outstanding success, and maybe I should wait till they do come in so I could share that with them. That Tom, maybe we could just ask you to bring in the group, and so we'll get the group in it, and they can file right across in front of us here, I think. Right in front? Yep, that's easier for now. And you can just keep going. That just march through until there's enough size. Yeah. We got one at a good price. Okay. Good heavens, this is a very worthy group here. That's good evening. Good evening. Good evening. So there'll be a. Anyway, I'd just like to start off by thanking everyone for coming, certainly from the BC Summer Games group, and just point out a couple of things that is really significant. I think the group did an outstanding job, and really it's something like a $2 million direct economic impact that was generated by this BC Summer Games. Over 3,000 athletes, coaches, and officials were here. 20 different sports were recognized. And we had 2,945 volunteers to make the games possible. 3,000 volunteers, which is just incredible to make it possible. And then the other one, too, and I know Rod is here, and Rod Milner, and I don't know if we got your cohort there as well, Greg Constable, but The group headed by Greg and Rod raised $900,000 of cash or in kind for this fund. So let's hear it. So what we have, what we'll do is, see if we can turn this thing on with any, and I am there. And so we have a presentation that we'd like to make to all of them, and we have Vanna White here. Will be passing them over to me as we go through it. And maybe I better just take the name list here so we get the order. I'll go around to the other side. And so what we're going to do, we're going to start with presenting them individually. And we have our famed photographer, Philip Cooper, will be here to take the pictures. So we'll do an individual picture and receive your presentation. And then we'll have the people following the photograph stand over by those two doors, much more or less where they are now, right behind Drew in that area. And then we'll do them individual pictures, and then we'll have a group picture. So with that said, we're going to start right into it. And the very first presentation is to Ashwa Siri. And thank you, Vanna. That was very kind. That was it. So, Ashwa, here, this is yours.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And then come on over. We'll get your picture. You're in the middle. Ashwa.
In the middle.
Middle.
I need to know my.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. The next, right, thank you. Oh, Diana has the updated list, and I've got the old list. How about that? So the next one, I'll just read off the names as they're handed to me, is Drew Cooper. Drew. I'm not sure what's happening, Drew. I'll let you hang on to that with that hand. Congratulations, and we'll get... Mr. Barry Sparks. Commander Sparks, there you are, sir.
Hold it right. Well done.
Of course. Now, steady on here. So come on in, and we'll get you to turn around, and we'll get our photograph here with you in the middle.
Why not?
And Jerry Laporte. Commander Laporte. Take that on that hand, and we'll shake on the left one. Here we go. Congratulations. Well done. Yeah, that's And is Jen here? No, maybe not. Jen's not here. So we have Rod Milner. We got a special deal for you on a jacket. I think that. And John Michel. Congratulations. There you go. I'll let you hold it that way around. Okay. And the 2IC for the organization, Bruce Hunter. Bruce. I'll let you hang in. Congratulations. Yep. Right side. And is Dan here? Did I see him? No, Dan's not here. So, Elizabeth Williams. Dun, 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 dun. Liz Williams with the City of Nanaimo.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Gord Robinson. Gord? Our communication expert. That was it. Hey, Gord.
Thanks, John.
This is your fourth. Yeah, this is your fourth.
Mercy. Yeah, actually, you know, Gord was just acknowledging that this is his fourth time involved with Summer Games. That's an incredible commitment, and thank you very much, Gord. Is that Arlene I see in your hand here?
Michelle.
Okay. Michelle? Where's Michelle? Oh, sorry, Michelle. Behe? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Thank you so much.
Right way around. Is Lori? Oh, yeah, that's right. Right, come on through. Well, Arlene, I'm sorry, you have to go first. I don't know why, but it's important. So that Arlene, come on forward. No. What do you mean? I'm going to get it later. Come on. We're waiting. Out you come. With all that theatrical experience, what are you hiding in the wings for here? Come on. You can hang on to that one.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Turn around this way.
way?
Yep. Just like that. Now, Lori, you're on. Lori Barlow. Do we have more before we? Jeff Lott was sort of the one we're going to wind up with here.
We're missing the rest.
We're missing the rest? Is there one?
away.
So, the last presentation, the chairman of the BC Summer Games, the guy who really made a huge commitment, there's no question, and I'm totally serious here. You know, Jeff Lott really worked his heart out, did an incredible job, organized all these people, which in itself is a challenge, let's be honest here, and got them all together on the same page, which is so important. So now we have a very special one, and actually we have a photograph of Jeff in the front of this one. Oh yeah, so there's yours. That was the one. That's very nice. So, thank you, Jeff, for everything you did. Thank you, Jeff. Now we have to organize all the group over here.
Can I just say
Certainly.
just a few
Here,
words?
here you
Could
go.
I
Yes,
stand
absolutely, right there.
Are we live here? Good, thanks. So just on behalf of the board, some of the members couldn't make it this evening. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Jen Hootby maybe comes in 5 minutes late. She's driving back from Tofino this evening. So anyways, on behalf of the board, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation this evening and recognizing the board. It was a great opportunity for the community. There was a lot of hard work, and each one of these directors, our office, our operations manager, and our staff really stepped up to the plate and did a wonderful job. And the community really came out, but the city of Nanaimo was the one, obviously, that started it off, got it coming to our community, and we really appreciate all your support during the planning for the games and the overall game. So thanks so much from all of us.
No, I think we're going to do it right there, are we not?
It's probably better to do the front, your worship.
Sorry?
For the front and back.
You want that? Okay. We'll take your direction. Now, the next presentation we have here is from Ms. Patricia Bell, Manager of Planning, Community Energy Association, to present Council with the Corporate Operations Climate Action Award for Reservoir Number 1, the Energy Recovery Facility. Welcome, Ms. Bell, and you're on.
Thank you. This is turned on. Okay. Good evening. I'm Patricia Bell, Manager of Planning at Community Energy Association, and I'm very pleased to be here tonight on behalf of the Community Energy Association, the Province of BC, the Union of BC Municipalities, BC Hydro, and Fortis BC, as I congratulate Mayor John Rattan, distinguished councillors, and City of Nanaimo staff on receiving the Climate and Energy Action Award in the Corporate Operations category for the Reservoir Number 1 Energy Recovery Facility. As you may know, Community Energy Association is a nonprofit. We were founded in 1995 by UBCM in the province, specifically to help BC local governments with energy planning and greenhouse gas emissions. Our mission is to build capacity and create action on the ground, and one of the ways we do this is by giving awards to the outstanding efforts undertaken by BC local governments every year. Now, from the 15 award applications we received this year, Nanaimo's Energy Recovery Facility was selected for the award in this category by the independent judging panel for several reasons. First of all, the Energy Recovery Facility uses hydroelectric turbines to recover excess energy and convert it into electricity. Secondly, for the first time in Canada, drinking water is drawn through submerged membrane filters, avoiding the use of electric pumps and significantly reducing energy-related costs. Thirdly, the city worked very closely with BC Hydro from conception to commissioning and successfully negotiated an energy purchase agreement earlier this year. That's a task unto itself. And finally, the energy savings from these measures are expected to save at least $100,000 a year for the city and generate enough electricity to power the equivalent of 160 to 190 homes. The Energy Recovery Facility is certainly a very inspiring example for other BC local governments and local governments across Canada, and we'll be showcasing this initiative on our website and through the services that we provide to all BC local governments. I did also want to note that as a recipient of a Climate and Energy Action Award this year, the City of Nanaimo is receiving a free membership in the Community Energy Association. What this will provide you with is a position at the CEA table, an invitation to our member meetings, which can be attended in person or by telephone, and member update reports and technical briefings when we receive them from the province. You'll also have networking opportunities with service providers like Corex, BC Hydro, and Fortis BC, as well as provincial government staff. And your logo will be on our front page of our website and on all the 30 to 40 presentations we make each year. You will also receive special access and discounts to workshops and conferences that we put on. And we wanted to note that we've recently launched a certificate in community energy management, which is an online program oriented towards working professionals, and staff of member organizations will receive a 20% discount on tuition. So once again, on behalf of the Community Energy Association and the award program co-sponsors, I congratulate you on the development of the Energy Recovery Facility. Nanaimo has certainly established itself as a leader in the area of energy conservation and greenhouse gas emission reductions, and we very much look forward to hearing about your future endeavors in this area. I now invite you down, Mayor Rattan and Council, to receive the Climate and Energy Action Award in Corporate Operations.
Okay, thank you very much. Am I on this one? And so what we'll do, Ms. Bell, I think we're going to get council here, are we, out in front? So we'll, sorry? You don't want to do that? You want to just sit there? So, I don't have any energy. Yeah. So, well, come on over here and we'll make the presentation and try to involve as many of this group as we can, willing or unwilling as they may be. Okay. So,
for you.
Thank you very much. Here, we'll let you hold that.
All right.
Thank you very much.
nice award.
Yeah, that's a lovely award, Ms. Bell, and thank you again. It's a very prestigious award, and we're really, really appreciative of your time coming here. Thank you. Now, Councillor Kipp, I believe you have an introduction.
Yes. I'd just like to say I want to introduce for an organization from Water for People, Mr. Leon Cake has been a member for a number of years, and with him is Jason Manning, who has been on a 20,000-kilometer bicycle ride to bring awareness to fresh water for people. So I'll invite Mr. Cake to come down and give an introduction.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Water for People organization in Canada. I'm a member of the BC section. Jason is a 24-year-old young man who took up a cause to ride his bike. Started in Japan and went through Europe and went to the East Coast and rode across Canada. We're hosting him here in Nanaimo, and I thought it would be appropriate, as tonight we can see with all the presentations, to recognize this man. This is his last leg before he goes to Victoria tomorrow, and he'll complete his 20,000-kilometer bike ride, and in support of Water for People and the awareness that we bring. Water for People is an organization that we help developing countries with their water systems, Peru, Guatemala, places like that. And it's an organization that's growing every year, and we're bringing awareness to countries where there is huge issues with water supply and understanding sanitation issues and all those kind of things. So there's a short video we can present, and then I'll let Jason say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jason, and I love riding my bicycle. I love cycling so much that I've decided to strap my tent, sleeping bag, food, and everything I need to survive onto my bicycle and fly to Japan. From Japan, I will cycle through 30 countries back to my home in Vancouver. I will be starting my 30,000-kilometer journey in Asia, where I'll ride some big countries, climb some huge mountains, and eat some strange food. Europe is going to be awesome because there's so many countries, so many places to visit, and tons of cool things to do. Cross the Atlantic Ocean and finishing with the 7,000 colossal journey across Canada to my home in Vancouver. I'm going on this journey because I love riding my bicycle and I love adventure, and I'm trying to raise funds and awareness for Water for People, a nonprofit organization trying to bring water to the millions of people without it. On this adventure, I will be cycling mostly by myself, with just my bike, my camera, and the long road for company. The scope of this journey is frightening because it is by far the biggest journey of my life. I'll have to settle for one country at a time, one day at a time, one pedal stroke at a time.
Well, well done.
Well, I would like to thank the City of Nanaimo for having me here tonight. The hospitality's been incredible. My journey on my bike definitely did not go as I thought it would, but few things in life rarely do. So far I've traveled across Japan, Europe, and Canada, cycling 20,000 kilometers. I chose Water for People because water is the foundation of life, and life cannot exist without it. At home in Langley, I work as a lifeguard, and we have so much water in Canada that I can actually earn a living because of the abundance of water we have in this country. And so I just wanted to bring awareness to the people I have met across the world, and to explain to them that, water is very valuable, and this is something that we can't ignore. And yeah, like I said, I'd like to thank the City of Nanaimo for the wonderful hospitality. And does anybody have any questions?
Sure, I think there'll be several for you too. I just wanted to say, once you get committed to this type of an enterprise, it's going to be in your blood. I mean, you perhaps won't be able to stop. So where are you going next after this?
That's a very, very good question. I have many ideas that are sort of rolling around in my noggin. Cycling for 6 or 8 hours a day, you have plenty of time to think. So not quite too sure, but very, very likely that I will pick a bike ride, another adventure, and hopefully just continue to travel, explore, and spread the good word for Water for People.
Well, good for you. Well, congratulations, Jason. I think that's a huge undertaking and a major commitment. Did you travel by yourself, or did you have an escort with you?
No, so everything I have my tent, sleeping bag, stove, all my food, pretty much everything I need to survive. And apart from just a couple days and the occasional person I'd meet along the way, I've been cycling by myself for the last 8 months.
Wow. So let's see who else we have. Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Worship. Compliments, congratulations, and thanks for your passion. Do you have a website where people can visit to make a donation online, or how do you?
Not currently, but my Twitter handle is Mr. Jason Manning, and on that website has my link to my Facebook as well as the website for the fundraising.
So does Mr. Cake have access to that? My Twitter capacity isn't my strongest asset, so I'll just think.
The website's one of those work in progress sort of thing now. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Great. Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Jason.
thank you.
Wonderful humanitarian thing to do. Did you stay well? Did you stay healthy on your trip?
Yeah, I've actually had pretty good health. Try to, while cycling, it's very easily to neglect your health. Sometimes you're just burning so much calories, you want food, so you'll go into a grocery store, buy a 5-pack of donuts, and then eat the whole thing, and then you'll feel like crap. But no, definitely one thing I've learned is to keep the nutrition up, because energy in is energy out on the bike, and that's ultimately what powers me across countries and continents.
Good for you. I just wondered, how many tires did you go through? Did you have to change your tires often? Or
I am on my 3rd set of tires, and I'll likely replace those shortly after I get home.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much.
Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you. I'm happy to have you come and explain your travels to us. I noticed on the map that you showed us, you had your line going through China and then Tajikistan
Yep.
and Iran.
Yep.
Did you do that?
So I didn't go through those countries due to some personal issues at the time. I actually became very, very homesick when I was Tokyo and came inches away of quitting. And so I needed to break things down to much smaller sections just to make it a bit easier. But no, crossing Asia on my bicycle is still on the to-do list and is possibly one of the future trips I might partake in.
Well, good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Great. Councillor Kipp.
No, I just want to say, if there's no other questions, thank you very much, Jason.
There's
It's
one more
inspiring.
from Councillor
All right.
Patchy. When you...
Okay, well, it's just for 24 years old. It's inspiring that you chose to probably take the most precious thing in the world, water, and try and push that around the world and tell people. I think it's amazing for a 24-year-old, and I don't think you will stop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Jason, very much. Which was the easiest and which was the most difficult country to cycle through?
All countries have their difficulties and challenges. It's very, very hard to pick a certain area, but by far one of the most challenging was northern Japan, where I arrived and it was -4 in the north, which you think Japan is usually quite a warm country, but not in the north, not in the winter. And the coldest it got down to was about -15 at night. And so cycling through that, never cycling in the snow before, that was a very, very big, a very, very steep learning curve. As far as one of the easier countries to cycle through, possibly Montenegro, because it's quite small and very beautiful, so the miles pass by very quickly.
I thought you would have said Holland because it's flat.
It's true.
Thanks.
You know, I think everyone's had the question, but I was wondering about how your personal safety was during the trip. I mean, did you have any challenges, confrontations? Were you looking down the barrel of a gun or anything like that?
No, like, I mean, the thing is I've done lots of traveling, and you sort of learn, I mean, not to, show off anything, just be humble, be reserved, treat people the way you would like to be treated. And surprisingly, the hospitality around the world is incredible. I think people kind of get the view that the world is an awful place, and it really isn't. The hospitality I've seen has just been amazing.
Good for you. Well, congratulations. It's a worthwhile cause, and I want to thank you for taking the time to come down and let us recognize your efforts, and continued success as you plan your days ahead and weeks and months and years ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'd also like to just thank the Howard Johnson Hotel, who's putting him up tonight for no charge. And Jason's leaving tomorrow at 10 o'clock from the Howard Johnson on his cycle. We've got some cyclists organized to ride him out at Nanaimo, and I just want to thank our council for giving us this opportunity to recognize this young man's efforts. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Matt. Okay, we move on into item 8A, corporate services, proposed changes to the investment policy. And I wonder, is staff going to introduce this?
Recommendation.
Well, it's but I didn't know if there's a recommendation that staff want to make a comment on it. Maybe I can just, okay, go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Worship. Just briefly, the council adopted a pretty comprehensive policy back in 2007. There's been some legislative changes since then that makes it possible for the city to invest in credit unions and the Canadian Western Bank, which had to be done by exception before, so now they would just fall into our normal investment portfolio.
Thank you very much, Ms. Clements. I think probably the other advantage is it may give us a little bit more competition in negotiations with the banking industry and the credit union industry as well. So, thank you very much. So, you moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Into item B, development variance permit DBP 242 at 3462 Boothaven Drive. And it's requested that council herein wishing to speak with respect to this DBP 242. And seeing none, the purpose obviously is to obtain council authorization to vary the permitted location for a heat pump. And there's a staff recommendation if somebody wishes. Moved and seconded. Councillor Brennan. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into developments variance permit DBP 243 at 370 Westwood Road. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DBP 243, and the purpose is to obtain council authorization to vary the maximum allowable height of a front yard retaining wall in order to permit the recent construction of an overheight retaining wall. The staff recommendation is there. Moved in second. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving to item D, development variance permit DVP 245 at 95 Milton Street. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to this DVP 245. Anyone in attendance? And seeing none, if somebody would like to move, Councillor Brennan. Thank you. And seconder? Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into covenant amendment application number CA2 for 4989 Wills Road. Purpose to obtain council authorization to amend section 219 covenant registered on the title of this to the subject property to replace Schedule A within the covenant EL 128262 with a new plan in order to adjust the future lot boundaries. There's a staff recommendation. Moved and seconded. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into unresolved building deficiencies, notice untitled, section 5.7. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unresolved building deficiencies for the properties listed below. There are still currently 5. I don't think any have been removed. Sorry.
Yes, Your Worship. Number 4
Number
has
4 is
been removed.
gone. Okay, on Luxley. So the first property is 401 Belmont Place. Anyone in attendance that'd like to speak to matters related to 401 Belmont Place? The next property is 4172 Corona Avenue. Anyone in attendance like to speak to matters related to 4172 Corona Avenue? The third property is 4942 Fillinger Crescent. Anyone in attendance that like to speak to matters related to 42 Fillinger Crescent? And the final one is 458 Nottingham Drive. Anyone in attendance that like to speak to matter related to that property? And seeing none, if somebody would like to make the motion?
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved. Seconded? Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. South Downtown Waterfront Committee, revised mandate and objectives. Item G, purpose to obtain council support for the continuation of the South Downtown Waterfront Committee. And the staff recommendation is by motion that council approve the revised mandate and objectives of the South Downtown Waterfront Committee.
Move the staff recommendation.
Moved. Second. Discussion. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. Appreciate the work that's been done to date. Question on page 69, third bullet under objectives, is to explore a structure for ongoing planning and development management. Could staff please explain to me what ongoing planning, I certainly get that. Could I please have clarity on what development management makes reference to?
Go ahead.
Your Worship. Specifically, we're looking at, or the committee will be looking at options for potential entities that could assist with the development and planning of these lands. So it goes on to say that it could be potential groups, bodies, or even corporations. So that's something that this group will be looking at. What type of entity would assist in the planning and development of our South Downtown waterfront lands?
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay. Any further?
Yes, please. Sure. So development management means inviting stakeholders to the table to participate in the evolution of the Downtown Waterfront Initiative. Is that what you just said?
I think Your Worship is probably looking more specifically in the long term at the type of body that could be used. Some waterfront, some communities use, for example, corporations when they have large tracts of land that they're looking to encourage development on. So that's just one of the potential scenarios that this group will be looking at themselves. They themselves are a group, a wide variety of people from across the community that represent a variety of stakeholders in the downtown waterfront.
Thank you. And my next question is on the next bullet. Develop a charter to implement framing the future. Could you please provide for me what developing a charter involves and entails? Is it a arm's length situation from the city, or just help me with some clarity on that, please?
Okay, if I might. Councillor Patchy obviously sits on the South Downtown Waterfront Committee, and he was next to speak, but maybe did you want to help with the answer to that?
Just a little bit. The questions that Councillor Bestwick is asking are really valid ones, but I'd refer you to half through the objectives where it actually says that the committee should aspire to complete by June the 30th of 2015. So it is something that the committee really wants to explore, and then of course we would come back to council and explain how the examples would work. Just to give you an example, there are two people on this committee, Dr. Whitty, the chair, and Mr. Kalsix, who've had really extensive experience in Winnipeg at the Forks development, so-called, where they worked with a development corporation. It was not a big one, it was a small entity, and that seems to have worked very well there. So at some point, we can ask these folks to come back and to explain what the actual intent is. I don't know if Mr. Corson wants to expand on that, because he has sat in on a couple of meetings as well. But the long and the short of it is, the committee is trying to come to terms with what it is that we can cobble together, and then come to council and answer all those questions that you have in more detail.
Mr. Corson, any comment?
Yeah, no, the idea of the charter is to basically lay out it takes the vision and then kind of helps implement it. So depending on the structure and how you want to develop the lands, that's what the charter is.
Okay, thank you. So what I heard Councillor Patchy say is reserve comment or questions until June. And I'm asking my questions now because I might not be back in June. So.
Yeah, right.
Thanks.
He said. In any event, Councillor Patchy, did you still want to have a go here?
No.
Okay. So, with that then, no further questions from council. The motion is that council approve the revised mandate and objectives for the South Downtown Waterfront Committee. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Lindley Valley Parkland Acquisition Program, exercise the final option agreement. And this is going to be introduced by Mr. Bill Corson, Manager of Real Estate. Mr. Corson, you're on.
Great. Sorry. So what I want to do tonight was just give you an update on the progress that we've made with the Lindley Valley Park acquisition, and then request council direction to proceed with finalizing our program. So on May 15th of this year, council directed staff to proceed with acquiring up to 221 acres of parkland in Lindley Valley at a cost of about $7.9 million. And these were the parcels that we were looking at. So the The blue parcels, the yellow, and the gray were the ones that were in play in May. And I'm just going to take you through each of them and give you some background on when they transferred to the city and some of the specifics. So the first parcel that transferred to the city was this Hillside Avenue property. It's 117 acres in size. Transferred on June 16th, and we paid $3.5 million for it. This was probably one of the most critical parcels in the program because it connects with the existing Lindley Valley Park, and it forms basically the spine of the future park network. So we've had that park now for several months. The next piece that transferred to the city was a portion of 3651 Rock City Road. We've since readdressed it. It's a 4.3 acre parcel, and we paid $130,000 for it, as well as a tax receipt. So that transferred in the middle of July. This is an important piece. If you've been out in the park recently, it actually connects the lake from Cottle Lake up to the Hillside properties. It's getting a lot of use already. Next portion that transferred to us was this piece from Cottleview Drive. You might recall we had to do a development variance permit to create 2 lots fronting on Cottleview Road. The rest of the property transferred to the city for $1. We were responsible for the costs associated with subdivision and surveying and geotechnical and environmental. That was about $30,000. And that transferred on September 29th. So tonight, we're looking for council's direction to finish the program and acquire these 2 properties for a combined price of $2 million. They're just over 50 acres in size combined, and the purchase price will be $2 million. If we get direction, these properties will transfer on October 28th, so just next week. The one property in the program that we were unsuccessful in obtaining was this property on Tanya Drive. It was 50 acres in size, priced at $2 million, and it sold to a private entity ahead of us for $2 million. We had an option to purchase this property, but another party was ahead of line of us, and he took his option and purchased it. So he's now pursuing development options for it. This is a summary that shows you which properties transferred, the sizes. So a total of 177 acres of parkland, of new parkland in Lindley Valley will transfer as part of this program at a cost of about $5.6 million. And our GIS department has done a Google fly-through for you to help visualize the lands that are transferring to the city. I'll narrate it, possibly. So you can see the park. We're going to start at the north end. And there's the Stronach Avenue property that will transfer next week, as well as the Cottleview property that's already ours. This is the 5600 Vandernook property with the towers on top, kind of the highest point in Nanaimo there. Then you head down over the 117-acre parcel in a minute. You can kind of see the valley in there, the various topography, the connectivity issues that it poses. Get down to the existing Cottleview Park. We'll spin around it. So that's the park we bought in 2003. This is the portion that we subdivided off on the right there. I think that's the end of our tour. Oh, maybe not. There we go. That gives you the context.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. We have some questions. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Corson, very much. So 5.6 million is the total.
Yep.
Great. Now, it no doubt will not have escaped you that this council has stood accused on numerous occasions since we purchased it that we paid 3 times the assessed value. Could you put this in context for me with regards to what it is actually that we paid? And I'm thinking in terms of market value as opposed to assessed value, and how we arrived at.
So you can see on some of those properties, the Cottleview property we acquired for $1. The back half of the Rock City Road property, we paid $130,000 for. Definitely below market value on those ones. The Tanya Drive property that we were unsuccessful on, we offered $2 million for. The property sold for $2 million to the private sector. So I think that's a good indication of an arm's reach transaction, as we refer to it in the business, took place without us setting the price. So the private sector set the price at $2 million for that 50 acres. So other than that, we were under that. And the average price we paid through this program was $32,000 an acre. The market value would have been, $50,000 an acre.
Your Worship, one only has to think, I'll just give my 2 cents on this, one only has to think of your own property. I doubt anyone would sell their property for the assessed value because they're always lower. And in the case of the Lindley Valley, where you haven't had any sales of the size and magnitude, there's no way any of the values were reflected properly. And as Mr. Corson said, when the large property that we weren't able to buy actually sold, that actually sets the value now for the Lindley Valley. So we paid, I think, market value based on what was sold.
Thank you.
Okay, and I might just make an observation as well, that we were in a situation where we were dealing with reluctant salespeople, because I understand some of them didn't really have a strong desire to sell the property. Rather, they want to hold it for speculation investment and subdivision. So obviously there is to be a premium that you're going to have to pay to buy property from someone who isn't necessarily a willing seller.
Yes, and Your Worship, thinking long-term in terms of asset management, were these lands to develop, there is a great number of roads and services that we would inherit, that we would be responsible for in the future, many of which we would actually be involved in building. So I think long-term, this purchase actually has an offset in terms of infrastructure that makes the property a tremendous buy when it remains as parkland.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Mr. Swaby just stole my thunder. We wouldn't have to build a water tower in that area too, and the one we just got an award for tonight was some 5 million plus generations. So we will save money on this, and people have to understand too, in the future, this type of asset is available for the city to look at if they wanted to dispose of. It's a tough one to dispose of parkland. It should always go to referendum. And I think this is a good purchase for our community for the long term.
Good point. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Worship.
Didn't want to surprise
that
you.
Was
Sorry.
kind of quick. I really have no need to defend this acquisition. I think it's absolutely priceless. I was tickled pink when we thought of doing it. It didn't take too long to decide it. And I'm going to, at the expense of comparing apples to oranges, the Lionsgate Bridge was built for $5.8 million in 1938. And I think 50 years from now, 60, 70, whatever, I think that when people find out how much we paid for these pieces of property, they're going to be tickled pink. They will not be able to believe it. And I know we talked about it being like a Stanley Park or whatever, but it's as Councillor Bestwick once mentioned, it's the biggest piece of green space in the east or north of the Parkway. And it's, as I said, it's priceless. And I'm just ecstatic that we bought it.
Thank you. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. Make no mistake, this is an excellent purchase. One that I think this entire council should be extremely proud of. I recall back in 2005 or so, or when we purchased Neck Point Park, and there was considerable consternation registered about that purchase as well. And I don't think there's a single person in this community and beyond that has walked Neck Point Park that doesn't believe that that's an absolutely gorgeous gem. And I'm thrilled that we'll have the same opportunity to boast about Lindley Valley Park and everything and the properties that we've acquired. So I'm extremely complimentary to this council and mayor for purchasing this property. So compliments all around.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly say that, for my part, obviously I'm very excited too, and the comments that councillors have made I agree with totally. And The thing that's important too, though, is that, really, when you get a large size of property or a group of properties like this was, you have really only one chance. Because once they start developing parts of them, you had to get all of them, or the most that we could get, and did, because if even one or two started developing in the middle, the whole plan would disappear. So I'm very pleased. Now,
Your Worship, I would so move then that Council exercise the option to purchase agreement for 5600 Vandernook Road and 3842 Stronach Drive for a combined purchase price of $2 million.
Okay, and can we do these ones?
And authorize the necessary documents.
And number two,
Can we take them both together, or one and two?
And authorize the mayor and corporate officer to execute the necessary documents to effect the transaction.
Second.
Yes, Your Worship.
You don't have to do it, Siri Adam.
Yeah.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Amendment to Development Services Department Fees and Charges Bylaw 2005, number 7016, Land Title Cost Recovery. Purpose to introduce an amendment to bylaw number 7016 to recover land title and survey authority fees. There's a motion to it. I think, for my part, the increases are very, very small and almost inconsequential unless you're there on a regular basis. So, Councillor Bestwick, did you have a...
I'm certain.
No, you're off.
Sorry.
So, move. Second. Moved and second. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Bylaw Department Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 7016.06 to amend Schedule A Land Title Cost Recovery, passed first reading.
Okay, moved. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I move the Development Services Department Fee and Charges Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 7016.06 passed second reading.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion
I
carries.
move the Development Services Department Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 7016.06 passed third reading.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into item 9A, nuisance properties, 25 Halliburton Street, 33 Halliburton Street, and 61 View Street. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to the properties at 25 Halliburton, 33 Halliburton, and 61 View Street. If there's anyone in attendance who would like to speak to those matters, please come down to the microphone. Okay, now what we need is your name, your address, and your affiliation with the property.
You're the agent. It's okay. Say you're the agent, your name and your address. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tia Fodry. I am here with May, who is the agent. She lives actually between these two properties.
Sorry, we got the name, did we, and the address? And the actual property that you're speaking on is which one again? I'm sorry? 25 Halliburton?
25 Halliburton
25, okay,
and
sorry.
33 Halliburton.
Oh, both of them. Okay, sorry.
And May's address is right in between at 29? Yes. At 29 Halliburton.
Okay.
May is the agent for the properties, and she's asked me to advocate on her behalf this evening. I have a background in community and human services, and some of her concerns with the property, I'm sure, are the same as yours. We're asking for 60 days to look at contacting John Horn, the city social planner, to see if we can come up with a plan, community safety plan, personal safety plan. My concern is that if we deem this a nuisance property, that it is going to put May in a position where phoning the RCMP is a cost to her. She wants to look at integrating services to manage, and I hope that you can see the value in our request.
Okay, let me just point out, do you realize why we do declare these as nuisance properties? Or we may in this case, we haven't got there yet. And that is the reason that if there are people that are regularly requiring call-outs by the RCMP and protective services on our own bylaw people, there's a huge cost to that. And we declare it so the taxpayers of Nanaimo don't have to pick up that cost. It's the responsibility of the property owner, and the taxpayer shouldn't have to pay this for you. So if these nuisance properties continue on and there's a need to be called out on a regular basis, it's only fair that the owner of the property pays their fair share for that work, or change what's happening in the properties to eliminate the problem.
That's what we're hoping to work with the city
Well,
to change.
you know, I don't know if staff have stats on the number of call-outs and time involved in these properties to start with?
The statistics of the property.
I don't have the numbers in front of me at the call-outs, but certainly it's
Significant.
Yes, it's grown to the point where there's concern raised.
Yeah, 28 and 17 for the two properties.
Yes.
And what period of time? I've forgotten. Is that? Yeah, but how long a period for that? Is that over a year for that period?
In 2014.
For 2014. I mean, that's a huge number of call-outs. It's a huge number, you know, and I don't think the people in this room should be expected to pay for that.
And Your Worship, just to clarify, there are other delegations that I believe are for this application as well.
So if you want to ask Council for a delay, I've got Councillor Brennan has a question. You know, we really need to know specifically what you really intend to do here, because we just don't want to be in a position of hearing the concerns and all of the call-outs that have been required in the past, and then give you 60 days and nothing happens, nothing changes, and we're going to go on with it. And I think the citizens of Nanaimo have every right to be protected against ongoing costs. We're forever getting requests to cut costs, and this is one way of doing it, make the people pay that are responsible for these call-outs. Councillor Brandon.
I would like to ask, I didn't actually catch your name, so...
My name is May.
May,
Yeah.
okay. It sounded to me like you have some concerns for your personal safety if you have to terminate the tenancies. Is that what you meant when you said work with John Horn and the RCMP? What were you talking about?
We'd like to see more integrated services. For example, today we contacted the crisis response.
Sorry, could you speak more into the microphone? It's very hard to hear you.
May isn't familiar with a lot of our community services, and I'd like to see some of them integrated into the situation to support the clientele, like the CRT team to come in is one example.
So I'm not sure who you want the services provided to, the tenants in the houses or to May herself?
I'm just saying that if we deem it nuisance, May hesitate to contact community services, whereas she's not familiar with them, and I think that we should give her the opportunity to look at the community services that are available for the clientele.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask, has May appeared before us before? I think she has in the past.
Before?
Has she not?
Oh, this
Okay.
is the first time.
It's the first time? Okay,
This is
fine.
the
I just
first
want to make
time.
sure that she hasn't been before. Okay, well, you know, what we'll do is maybe hear the rest of the people behind you that want to hear that, and then council will debate this issue. Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Reed, and I reside at 20 Halliburton Street, directly across the road from 25 and within 75 meters of 33 Halliburton Street. First of all, thank you for considering a nuisance designation on these properties, and I urge you to support those designations. I moved into my current residence 2 years ago. I'm renting there and have noticed a substantial decline in the safety of the neighborhood over the last year. And this coincides with the landlord changing her tenants from a single family dwellings to a rooming house situation. The individuals that are now renting at these properties are the cause of the following problems. Public intoxication. Daily when the weather is good, tenants drink outside of their residences. They often become intoxicated and walk with open liquor from one property to the other. Noise. The tenants are frequently loud, yelling at each other and associates who drop by. There are fights between individuals, including of a domestic nature. There is drunken yelling. There are loud disagreements between sex workers and clients who live in her properties. Drugs. Over the past 6 months, I've found multiple used needles scattered about the neighborhood, including dropped on the front yard of a residence with young children. There are frequently people making very short visits to 25 Halliburton Street, which leads me to believe that based on the number of times the cops bust the place, that it's probably drug-related. And finally, fighting. Several times over the past year, I've witnessed tenants brandishing wooden poles and threatening each other, fist fights, and general just mayhem going on. When I moved into the neighborhood at first, I never felt unsafe. It definitely is a lower socioeconomic status neighborhood, but it wasn't dangerous. And now I feel like there is some danger creeping in because of these two properties. My wife and I have had several discussions about moving out of the neighborhood because it's getting so bad. And I do want to note that the police have been great. Corporal LaBerge and the bike squad are to be commended for their willingness to both listen to the concerns of neighbors and put this designation forward. So I do just want to thank them. The landlord has had numerous chances to rectify the situation. Corporal LaBerge, I've talked to, gone into the police station about these properties, and he said that police have tried to talk to her multiple times. I'm sure it's in their report too. So 60 days is not going to change anything, and I urge you to please designate these two properties as nuisances tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, that's fine.
My name is Phil Clark, and I live at 18 Halliburton. There's not much to add other than the fact that we've been there for 4 years now. The property is not just May's property, but it starts from 21 and it goes all the way down. And it should be noted that there are carriage houses in the back of 2 of those properties that are also under the same problem. They've all turned into rooming houses. It's gotten so terrifying out there that my kids can't play in the front yard. I am the family that has kids right there that gets needles dropped in our front yard. Air gets let out of my wife's tires on a regular basis every week. And we are being threatened by some of the tenants of these places because we're the ones that call bylaw and the police all the time on them. So now it's a matter of my family's safety, and I take that very seriously. It's been going on for 4 years and nothing has changed. It's not just a new thing, it's getting worse though. As it's changed from single family dwellings into a rooming house type idea, it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. It was bad before, now it's horrible and it's terrifying. And I hope the city doesn't take any more excuses or any more time given to people who clearly don't care about our community and clearly don't care about the safety of the people that live there. That's all.
Good, thank you very much.
Your Worship, could I ask for your name again?
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, the last delegation.
Could I ask for your name again, please?
You would just...
Yeah, your name.
Philip Clark.
Thank you.
Good, thanks very much. Now, next delegation.
Hello, my name is Judy Murray. I reside at 26 Halliburton Street. I've been a long-time homeowner there for almost 20 years. And I've lived across the street from these slums for a number of years and dealt with numerous problems, too numerous to mention, and it's really destroyed the quality of my life in the neighborhood for many years. With various slumlords that have owned these properties in question. The lady May, I don't know when she bought it, a few years ago, but since she's owned it, she's been one of the worst. And it's just become really unsafe for everybody in the neighborhood. It's also scary for family and friends visiting. It's embarrassing to have the police there on a daily basis. As the other delegations had said, she's kind of turning it into rooming houses. Maybe she's not saying that, but she's packing them in like sardines. The one house in question, 25, is where all the drug activity is, and it's been going on pretty well since, for several months, I'd say probably 8-10 months, and she's got the biggest blinders on in the world. She knows exactly what's going on. I almost believe she may be a part of it, but
we have to just caution you on that.
Yeah, it's I've seen her be out there at times when all the drug activity is going on, and she puts her head down and looks away. She refuses to acknowledge what's happening in the neighborhood. We've gone through a really hot summer where you can't even keep your windows open at night because of the traffic keeping you awake all night long. I happen to work shift work and get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it doesn't really make for a great work day when you've been kept awake all night long from the drug traffic. This landlord has also been dumping garbage because she doesn't want to pay the $2 fee, so we've witnessed it, in fact, her taking her garbage and dragging it to vacant properties a few doors down, as well as taking it to a house that is messy and does have a messy backyard, but she dumped all of her garbage, including couches, etc., large items, into a neighbor's property, but he did call bylaws about that. Over the years, I've just dealt with so much, and it's really difficult to continue to feel really happy and feel proud about living on Haliburton Street. I've always had the vision that Haliburton Street could be something better, that it could be a really great, vibrant neighborhood that we can all be proud to call our home. But after living across the street from these places for 20 years and the blight that it's caused and the embarrassment on, the neighborhood and, just even the way people perceive Haliburton Street to be, I just can't turn a blind eye to this anymore because I've witnessed all kind of violence on a sometimes daily, weekly basis where there's been melees in the street, including under her watch, where there's been machetes and fights with, multiple persons with bats, with fence posts, also while she owned the properties. There's been stabbings. In fact, it wasn't that long ago. It was just a few months ago. There was a stabbing in one of her properties, and there's all continual. There's working girls coming and their Johns and the. Drug traffic nonstop. Even just today, for example, I'm making dinner this afternoon and, it's just one car after another and there's pedestrians and bicyclists and this goes on all day long. And I just want to live in a safe, happy neighborhood as a working person, trying to get by without sleep deprivation, without thefts, because there's also been quite a number of increased thefts in the neighborhood. My parents happen to own properties in the neighborhood, and they've noticed all kinds of things, going missing of late. The houses that this landlord in question owns are all extremely unsightly. In fact, I almost took a picture to show you one of the properties in between the two houses in question that has a plywood lawn. It's all different pieces of plywood, like a jigsaw puzzle on the front lawn. I mean, who has a lawn like that?
Okay.
So anyway, I'm just urging you to please not grant this person 60 days of a reprieve. I'm also, aside from her advocate that she's brought with her, I'm in the human services field. And, as much as I like to be broad-minded, enough's enough. I can't live like this anymore. So I please urge you to deem these places nuisance properties and the ones in behind them as well as quickly as you can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next delegation, please.
Hi, my name is Karen Geck. I live in number 37. I've been living there for 4 years. A lot has been covered. The violence is huge. Just in the last year and a half, it's really increased greatly. I live right next door to one of these houses in question, and my concern is a fire trap. There are couches, organs that are broken, there are chairs, there are old barbecues, there are everything imaginable stacked underneath the porches and all up along the houses that border my fence. I'm quite concerned about fire hazards. There was a fire in the basement there last year where one of the tenants threw her buddy's clothes out the window and threw a match and lit it, and up it went. And I'm quite concerned of all the stuff there. just more recently, my light bulbs on my porch have been stolen. And I know this sounds maybe trivial and quite stupid, but after 9 o'clock at night, my light goes out on my porch outside, and when I go out, I have no light bulb. And I really know that being it's lit up, it catches the traffic going up and down the street, like the people on their bicycles and walking, and I guess in the dark you're not seen. That's been the latest. My windows too have been closed all summer, which I'm quite upset about, because the noise isn't, there's no respect for, I don't mind music and I don't mind some things, but come 9:30, 10 o'clock, it's time to shut it down. And these go on. I've called the police numerous times at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I'm a working person. I get up at 6 and I work all day. And, it's just, it all comes down to respect and keeping your property within means of having respect for your neighbor. I understand most of her tenants, and well, I should say all of her tenants. They're on some form of. They don't work. They don't do anything but drink and do drugs. As of lately, there was a big camper pickup, and it was back down the driveway with a tow truck because it couldn't run, but there are people going in and out, and the population is growing on those properties numerously and by the day, and it's time it goes. I just safety's huge. I live by myself, and a lot of people do on that street. We're good people, we're quiet people, but you know what? It's safety, and with people with their children. Please take all that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Nadine Rigsby. I reside at number 18 Halliburton Street, and we have been there for a little over 4 years. And I have seen everything that you've just heard of. But where my concern is when I started to notice that the houses have changed from single-family dwellings to multiple rooms are being rented. People are coming and going they're changing residents mid-month. They don't seem to know each other. It very much seems like a boarding house. And my concern as well is the traffic that is over the top. I don't know anyone that has that many visitors in one day unless they're up to something illegal, frankly. I would like you to also consider how many times the emergency vehicles had come. I believe it was 28 and 17 times. I'm thinking that is probably within 3 to 4 months. I don't believe that was the entire year. They are there over and over throughout the week. I myself know about three fires in just a couple of years in the one house in particular. And the amount of emergency vehicles that show up, I don't have the numbers for what that costs our taxpayers, but I cannot imagine that it's money well spent. We know we have a ton of other things that this money could go towards. These people are down on their luck, yes. I try not to look down on these individuals. However, where my concern is the safety of our community and our neighborhood, due to the fact that these people who are troubled are being clumped together and they're trying to get by themselves in ways that are not positive for our community, they're not healthy, and frankly, they're dangerous. The violence and the traffic and the needles that have been found in our street, it's just unacceptable. I've personally spoke to the police myself as well, and they're there endlessly. They know these people. They know exactly where they're going. If I do phone 911, they say, oh, okay, are you a resident? We know where you're talking about. The 911 response people on the phone know of these properties. I'm sure that they get a lot of phone calls in a day, but to recognize our phone calls, it says a lot to me. I really, really thank you for your time, and I thank you for looking at this today. I do believe these are nuisance properties, and I do believe that there is hope for these people if they could separate and go and get help in places where our tax money is spent on helping them and not just housing them together, squishing them in amongst other people with the same problems. It will never end. It's a cycle. They need to be separated and they need to be looked after individually, not crammed in like sardines, as my neighbor had said, in an unhealthy environment. I just don't see it being beneficial to anyone. So I do encourage you as well to please really think about this 60 days. A lot of damage can be done in that time. A lot of phone calls to the emergency resources will be called. And
Okay.
I thank you again for your time and for considering this.
Thank you very much.
Gord Fuller, 604 Nichols Street. It's always a tough decision to declare properties a nuisance. And it's extremely tough when you realize that people may end up having to get evicted. However, when you look, I work with the homeless. I've been doing that for almost 20 years in Nanaimo. And sometimes you need to make these decisions. My guess is that people that work with the homeless, mentally ill, and addictions, they're already connected with these people in one way or another, or the people know how to be connected with them and are choosing not to. You can't force someone to become connected. You could bring all the services down there that you want, and the people can choose not to be there. But when you're looking at the safety of the neighborhood, you also have to look at the safety of the tenants. And if there are that many calls and that many of fire, ambulance, police coming to properties, the safety of the tenants would behoove you to declare them nuisance properties.
Okay, sir, thank you. Councillor Greaves, was it for the delegation or is it?
No, I was going to move the staff recommendation.
Well, let's just see if there's anyone else who would like to speak first. And seeing none, Councillor Greaves?
I'd like to move staff's recommendation.
Do we have to do 61 first?
Go ahead.
Your Worship, you can do as written on the agenda, which is basically 1, 2, and 3. So move a staff recommendation for 1, 2, and 3.
But if we asked if anybody wanted to speak to 61 G Street.
Yeah, I think it was 29, we started, well, actually, I think we did name all three properties at the beginning.
You actually have named all three when after the title of the agenda item.
Yeah.
It says over there 24 Halliburton Street, 33, and 61 Via Street.
And everyone in attendance tonight that wishes to speak on any of those three properties has done so? Okay.
Second, Your Worship.
Moved and second, and that the motion is that council declare the following properties a nuisance pursuant to nuisance abatement and cost recovery bylaw 2003, number 5645, and to authorize staff to record and charge for municipal services, including police, required at these properties to abate the nuisances. It's been moved and second. No further Oh, Councillor Kipp, did you have something?
Could I?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I can't agree with I can't agree with Mr. Fuller more. This can be a very serious situation for the tenants of these places. I've been in these places as a firefighter, and they're, from what I understand and from what I hear, they sound like the same places that I have been in the past, and they're very dangerous. And from
as
what
a firefighter,
I was going to say, professionally speaking, no, I just there's no way we're going to give them 60 days after what I see and hear. Thanks.
Okay, I just want to make a quick comment, and Councillor Kipp has a comment as well, but, you know, we have all here in the council been to events put on by the South End Residents Association, and they've worked very, very hard to make the South End a livable place. And, you know, there's family events and rides for kids held at the park there. They're doing all they can to make this area a beautiful place to live and reside for families and children in particular. And, you know, we just have to, you've all heard discussions from the residents. It's just wrong, and it's, to me, extremely wrong that the taxpayers of Nanaimo should have to pay for the ongoing police services involved. I totally support the motion. Councillor Kipp.
A couple things. I support the motion because I think if the person cleans up the property, they can come back and have a nuisance property removed from their designation. And that can happen when they improve the facility. I agree with Councillor Greaves. It's not only dangerous for the people in the neighborhood, for the responders, but really for the people that live in this condition. And I believe we have to change this type of rental accommodation in Nanaimo, and this is the way to do it. Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is item C, unauthorized suite in a single-family dwelling. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to property at 960 Brecken Road, and the purpose is to obtain council authorization to enforce the provisions of the community charter. And, well, wait one. Is there anyone in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 960 Brecken Road? Councillor Anderson.
I'd move that council, pursuant to section 72 and 73 of the community charter, order the owners of 960 Brecken Road to remove the unauthorized suite or bring the property into compliance within 30 days.
Seconder? Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into Property Maintenance Bylaw 1990, number 3704. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to property maintenance for the properties listed below. And we have number 3 has been pulled and number 5 has been pulled. Is that correct? And the rest still stand. So pursuant to Property Maintenance Bylaw number 1990, 3704, direct the owners of the following properties to remove the materials as listed below from the premises within 14 days, or the work will be done by the city or its agents at the owner's cost. The first property is 755 Albert Street. Discarded, I think they'll be on the screen behind us here, discarded wood and wood debris, household furniture, and miscellaneous debris. Is there anyone in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 755 Albert Street? The next property is 520 Nova Street. Wood and construction waste, derelict vehicles, old appliances, garbage, mattresses, discarded furniture, blackberry bushes, and miscellaneous debris. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 520 Nova Street? In attendance tonight? The next property is shown as item 4 on your agenda, 2142 Mountain Vista. Blackberry bushes encroaching into the neighboring properties. Is there anyone in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 2142 Mountain Vista? Possibly not. Okay, and the final property shown as item 7 on your agenda, 3011 Departure Bay Road, derelict MGB car, derelict hearse station wagon, black vehicle, red vehicle, wood, household items, and miscellaneous debris. Okay, that's nice. Is there anyone in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 3011 Departure Bay Road? And
I
seeing
move
none?
the recommendation.
Please. Is there a seconder? Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into...
I'm sorry, Your Worship.
Yes.
Just checking something really quickly over here. How we deal with 290 Wikisai Avenue? 290 Wikisai Avenue? For some reason, I don't have it in my amended agenda.
I don't have it in mine.
It's like 290.
I don't have it in mine.
Okay, Your Worship, I don't have it in my agenda, so we'll leave it for the next meeting on next Monday.
Okay, well, I'm a little confused. Is it there? Is it on some and not on others?
Yeah.
It got deleted by mistake, I'm sorry.
It's number 6.
Yeah, but I don't have it in my amended. Do you have it in your
Well, no, I've got an amendment, but I have number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 7.
That's right, we'll skip number 6, which is 290 Wikisai Avenue. We have a discarded sofa, mattress, chair, garbage, and miscellaneous debris.
Well, maybe we should do that then. And do we have pictures to cover it? Who's doing the... Okay.
There we go.
290 Wikisai Avenue, as the picture shows. A discarded sofa, mattresses, chair, garbage, and miscellaneous debris. Is there any in attendance tonight that would like to speak to matters related to 290 Wikisai Avenue?
I remove the recommendation.
So, yes, carry on. You've done a good job. And was the second? Second. Moved and seconded. No further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into item E, Northfield/Boundary/Highway 19A update. Purpose to update council on the work to upgrade the intersection of Northfield Road, Boundary Avenue, and Highway 19A, and to advise that the project has been placed on hold pending first, further investigation into potential rail crossing grants, and secondly, further discussions with the Ministry of Transport regarding financing contributions. And is there a staff comment that anyone wishes to make at this point? Maybe not.
No, Your Worship, unless there's any questions from council.
Okay, but maybe staff might want to expand on, or somebody on staff could expand on the fact that there has been a change in, I think, the Railway Act, and now there is a very, very substantial cost, something in excess of $300,000 per intersection, per rail crossing, that the city could be responsible for, and that's the reason for the delay while we try to find alternate funding sources from the government. Is that correct? You're on.
Okay, I think I can expand on that a little bit. So Transport Canada is in the process of updating and revising their rail crossing regulations and rail crossing standards. Now that's a process that they've been going through for probably about 10 years, and they're just about complete. But what that means is they're once they're complete, they're going to have a minimum safety standard for all rail crossings that the Road Authority and the Rail Authority will have to adhere to. And then they've also got these rail crossing standards which prescribe the details around sort of approach grades and the types of gates and the clearance times and those sorts of things. And so what that means is when we design or when we're upgrading a rail crossing, we have to adhere to these new standards. In the past, say 20, 30 years ago, they didn't have these strict safety regulations related to rail crossings. So the bar is a lot higher now than it used to be. So the costs associated with dealing with a rail crossing are substantial right now.
Can you give us an approximate estimate of what that cost might be per crossing, rail crossing?
On this particular crossing, I can tell you it's one of the most complex ones that exists. Our consultants are telling us it's one of the most complex ones they've seen. If you add up the total costs associated with having an active railroad crossing there, it's in the range of about $900,000.
$900,000 for that one particular site.
So it's about $500,000 to replace the rail hardware and the gates and those sorts of things. That's very costly infrastructure. And then for the multi-use trail, because of the approach grade constraints, it requires a substantial cast-in-place concrete ramp. So the cost of that is between $50,000 and $100,000. And then, as I've indicated in the report, there's also I think it's $300,000 to $400,000 in additional costs because of this signal at boundary and then the additional advanced warning system. So it adds up to close to $1 million.
Mr. Verlo, do you have a point?
Your Worship, just a reminder that there is a delegation for this item as well.
Yes, but I just want to finish this part first, and then we'll hear the delegation. Councillor Pecci, do you want to...
To staff, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
What kind of a delay are we looking at?
Okay, so I guess one of the delays could be this grant that we're talking about approaching. So when the federal government has brought forward these rail crossing regulations and standards, they've also got a rail crossing grant program that goes sort of along with that. Now, the challenge here is that it's set up for federally regulated rail crossings. Now, what it does is it provides the Road Authority or the Rail Authority with a contribution of up to, I think it's $550,000 per project for safety-related rail crossing upgrades. Now, the challenge is it's specifically targeted for federally regulated rail crossings. Now, with the ENN Railroad, it's a provincially regulated railroad. But because Via Rail is essentially as a federal operator and it's going to be operating on the ENN corridor, there may be some opportunity to have access to that grant. We're not entirely sure that they'll look favorably on it or not. So we'll have to apply for it and then wait and see what they say. But we can only apply for it in August, the year before you would get access to it. So in terms of timelines, applying for that grant and waiting for it could have a significant delay. So the earliest we'd be able to apply for it would be August of 2015 for use in 2016, essentially.
So, Your Worship, this is a significant delay, as you're hearing, and we typically cannot go ahead and do the intersections and then apply for retroactively funding. One of the options for council in this budget session is to consider moving forward with it and paying the costs ourselves, but they are substantial.
And the reason I've asked the question, Your Worship, if the unspeakable should happen between now and August of 2016, we'll never forgive ourselves or be able to do so. That is a considerable delay, and it is, if not the worst, the second worst intersection in all of Nanaimo.
I can just add for about 5 years, we looked at a period of about 5 years, and over that 5-year period from about 2008 to about 2012, there was a 5-year period where there was over 300 accidents in that intersection area there.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no further. Oh, Councillor Kipp, go ahead. No?
Oh, yeah. What were those accidents? Those rear-enders, people going onto the highway and stopping? Is it high damage? Is it high velocity actions? I mean, it's some really bad driving in there.
Okay, so there's sort of two key accident modes that we sort of worry about there. Probably the most common one is from Northfield to the highway southbound. So they tend to be the rear end type collisions. They tend to be not particularly high consequence, but there is a lot of them. Now, the other one that we worried about are the sort of the T-bone type collisions. So when people turn left from the highway onto Northfield, those don't tend to be as common, but they're extremely high consequence. So those are the two main types of accidents that we worry about with that intersection. And
at this here, how will that improve the left turn lane? Because it really doesn't stop that guy from turning in front of the fast car. And going onto the highway, is there an acceleration lane planned there?
So to
the
address
highway's not doing nothing, are they? And there's no left turn or right turn improvement off of the highway coming south on the highway. There's no left turn lane improvement, is there?
Your Worship, we can just pull this up in the overhead for council and people at home.
So how does this improve the danger of the left-hand turner in front of the speeding car down? How does it improve the rear ender right there where there's, at the end, is there, I don't see if there is an acceleration lane? Because all the work we're doing is upstream from the two danger areas.
Okay, so to address your two questions there, the left turn from the highway right now is what we would call protected permissive. Now, what that
This
means
is northbound you're talking.
Yeah, northbound on the highway to westbound on Northfield. So that's what we would call a protected permissive. So what it means is you get the advanced left, but then once that phase is over, you don't have a red light, you have a green light, then you can go and you can yield to oncoming traffic. That's the permissive phase. And that's where things are dangerous because if people are anxious to turn, they're in a hurry, they tend to take some risks and they'll run in front of traffic potentially. So with this proposed project, the permissive part of that phase will be eliminated. So it'll be protected only. That left turn will be a movement on its own. There won't be any conflicting traffic with that movement. So that should significantly address the safety of that left turn from the highway.
That's just a signal change at that intersection.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
For the right turn Northfield to southbound on the highway, the high number of rear end collisions is partially a result of it's a yield condition right now, but the angle that the intersection's on and the sort of the vertical grade change that results from when you drop off the tracks, there tends to be a lot of the rear end type collisions. So with the proposed project, there'll actually be an acceleration lane, so people don't have to take their eyes off of the lane that they're in before they get to merge and weave into the southbound traffic. So that issue should be significantly mitigated with this project.
But if I can address that, I'm not certain that will significantly change it because what they're doing is they're stopping because they want to cross two lanes immediately. Now they're going to accelerate down that lane and do their short 2 or 3 lane hop to get over to turn down Departure Bay. And that is a significant risk that this is not going to change. They'll speed up and cross the 2 lanes faster now versus, because they literally, instead of pulling out into the slow lane, putting a signal on and turning over a lane and then putting their signal on. They stop there and dart across the lane. We can spend all the money we want on roads, but we're not improving the drive. And I don't know, like, it's a hard one to improve. I'm just wondering how we're improving this. So I don't know, that acceleration lane, I don't know. I don't know if it'll stop the rear enders, but it might have some more traffic crossing, because the whole idea is they stop there and then jump across 2 lanes. Even when you pull over coming down the highway, they still jump in front of you.
Well, Your Worship, we've spent a lot of time studying this and had experts studying it, and I'm not aware that that's actually the issue that is the resulting rear ending, but
they stop, they won't pull out into the empty lane. They want to go to the patch lane.
This is
Point of order. We have already approved this project. Now we are asking ourselves, do we want to delay it pending federal funding application? And I think it would expedite the process a lot more if we stuck to the point in front of us.
So even if it's a bad one, just go ahead with it. Okay.
Okay, well, I think we're simply talking about whether to delay it or not. That's the decision, and you're quite right on that thing. So I think let's get on with the delegation now. We do have a delegation, Mr. Daniel Appel. Mr. Appel, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of months ago, I addressed this council to do with the transportation plan, and part of that, an important component of that plan, was the priorities that we listed. And I think they're good priorities, they're good to follow, but they're a radical change from the priorities that we've had up till now. And I'd have to sympathize with the way the city is doing this, in that the transition is extremely difficult. And in this particular case, the city, I don't believe, has made that transition. And now when I get the cost of this intersection, I get a little bit concerned that we might be spending all our money before we make the transition to smart streets or streets that everybody can use. We're doing an upgrade to this that might not be necessary, and might, if we do a more modest change to the thing, save us some money and make that intersection a lot more safer. So I kind of like to propose a slight change from actually quite a radical change from what is there now and from what has been proposed. And I believe I have to say I'm a little bit unprepared in the sense that I had about 10 hours on the weekend to put this together. So all of it was kind of a bit of a rush, but it's here, and they're essentially trying to focus on the safety of this intersection for everybody concerned. So safety first. And the first thing, the safest way we can make this is to calm the traffic. Have it go through this bit of highway and this bit of intersection a lot slower, a lot steadier, with a steady kind of rhythm instead of the high-speed pulse that it has now. And the high-speed pulse that the intersection proposed encourages to a great deal. Traffic calming, smaller intersections so that there's better sight lines and that you can see the people driving and negotiate with actual people in their cars while you make turns, make left-hand turns, and make sure that your driving is as safe as it possibly can be. And then highly visible crosswalks, especially the bike crosswalk, where right now it goes at a funny angle. It encourages high-speed biking across that intersection without stopping and makes a fairly unsafe condition. where the cyclists don't have to pay so much attention as the motorists do. And I'd like to make, the cyclists more visible, and I'd like them to be more attentive to the driving that goes on there. So, and then the last bit is short and very clear sight lines, so that you only get the information presented to you that you need to make the right decision. And we're not talking about fast drive-through intersection here. We're talking about a steady drive that's primarily safe, that everybody can use safely. And the first change here is, you can see, a much smaller intersection on the highway. There's also a right-hand turn lane on the north side. This from right to left is south. So there's a right-hand turn lane. You separate into that, and you don't have to worry about cars coming plowing into you as you slow down to make a right-hand turn onto that intersection. You're in another lane, so the other cars can go by, and you can approach this intersection a lot slower. Also, I recommend putting a flat piece of lawn there to make it much more visible, make the bikes much more visible, make the cyclists see the traffic that's there as well. Make it all much more visible. And there's also traffic calming in the cycle lane due to it narrows, and it provides a sharp turn, and it encourages a stop so that you are aware of the traffic. And when you're a cyclist, you can see that there's a person turning left. You can see the people turning right, going through your lane, and you can make decisions correctly and on time and save yourself a lot of trouble. This means the rail crossing itself is much, much smaller than it is now. The intersection, the highway intersection, is about half the size that it is now. And all the lanes are slightly narrowed here to encourage people to actually slow down as they approach this. This is on the highway side. Also, when you turn left, again, the city has recommended a very good recommendation as far as a controlled light there, especially for that intersection. But when you turn left, you don't have to see a long way to see all the information you need to make the correct decision as far as turning left goes. And then you proceed up. You have enough space between the highway and the train stop to stop in time if you have to stop, if that's a required condition. This is the radical change. This goes absolutely radical, because this is taking, instead of directly going from Northfield onto the highway, you do a kind of a T intersection, a kind of modified T intersection onto Boundary first. You combine that traffic, and you proceed from that point on down. Again, the intersection is much, much smaller. The actual shape of the road and the additional road is quite a bit less than the city has proposed. All the sight lines are there that are necessary to make the correct decisions. And if you're going from the highway to Boundary or Northfield, you have the right of way. You go straight either way. You can go either way quite smoothly. And then anybody on Boundary and Northfield going to the highway, they have to stop and make an agreement with each other, if there's a conflict, with their eyes, and proceed when it's safe. And they have all the information to do that in a very compact, delivered way. And that's what makes this a safer intersection than the one we have now. And I think it would be considerably safer than the one that the city is proposing. So I would suggest that you redirect the staff to focus on safety, not so much on terms of getting traffic through.
Okay, I might just have a question. What about a roundabout there?
it's not a bad thing. I certainly did look at that as an option. And again, I've only had a little bit of time to look at all of this. And usually what I like to do is explore a whole bunch of options. But I found that it might not be necessary given the way the roads are configured. I did a study of this before I realized that the property was bought specially to accommodate the road. And I found you could make that intersection a lot safer with just paint. You wouldn't have to add a single bit of asphalt to the thing, and it would be a similar kind of configuration as this, although not as optimized as this one would be. But it would essentially be what's there now, reconfigured and painted, so you paint the intersection a little better, and you move one traffic light, and you've got a safer intersection that performs better than what we have now. That's the options that I was looking at, and I think that if we do it similar to this, we'll save money. It'll be a lot less cheaper, and it'll be a lot safer.
Okay, sir. I see no questions. Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Yeah, I'll send you the bill.
Okay, remember the motion actually is basically to advise that the project has been placed on hold pending further investigation into the rail crossing and further discussions. Okay, I see no. Oh. Councillor Graves.
Just a question through you, Worship, to staff. How much money have we spent on this intersection so far for the study of it? And approximately, I know you can't give me the.
For the civil design consultant, I believe our fees that are around about $140,000, and then there's some fees to some rail consultants on top of that. Sorry, and the land purchase as well. But I would like to point out that the Ministry of Transportation has cost shared with the city 50-50 on the design.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Paggi.
Thank you, Worship. You know, I'm no expert, and the two experts are sitting there, but I would still like to, one way or the other, have your opinion on what Mr. Appel just told us. So is there a way that I can ask for a reaction in writing at some point, a staff report or a comment on what Mr. Appel has suggested?
Well, Your Worship, we certainly would be able to provide you with written comments. This is not an intersection, as you know, in terms of accidents and fatalities that we want to leap to the new designs that the traffic committee and traffic plan speak of. This is a highly dangerous intersection with a lot of issues that are going on, both rail, pedestrian, cycling, and cars. And it's a big leap to stop giving the automobile the dominant movement in this location, given the fact that it's two major roads, it's a provincial highway, and a very important intersection in the city. So I don't, while Mr. Appel's design is desirable from future considerations and certainly principle-wise, I think that the technical issues surrounding this type of intersection improvement need to be left to traffic experts that we have both on staff and that we've hired.
If I make comment on that, you know, I accept that, and I really have no problem with it, but I still would like, I see the value of a professional critique on what was presented to us. No more, no less. And I'd like to have that at some point.
Okay. There was, I think, a nod there. Councillor Kip, brother.
I almost disagree with Councillor Paggi that, just because we've spent some money in this intersection, that is a great design I just saw. And from my questions, it answers quite a few of those rear-end questions. It answers the confusion of cars turning to the hospital. It makes a better flow. I can't believe an engineer wouldn't look at that drawing and go, wow, this is easier and traffic flows. So from my perspective, as I said earlier, when I don't think this one works and I see one that works, it'd be sure good to analyze it. And to say that this is some thing that's been drawn, we've spent money before about tearing stuff out and then finding later, well, we didn't have to, or there's a better way. So I think it takes merit to revisit how this design was done. And from my view, having designed a couple parking lots in my life, it looked pretty good. It squared out that intersection. If some people remember, it used to go down right onto Highland Boulevard, and we had a square intersection there for a long time. And then some traffic engineer changed it, and changed Boundary Road, and recreated that. And it's dangerous, but the roads in our town aren't dangerous. We got lousy drivers. We have lousy drivers here. And I think that square intersection, the Y shape, is a far better design than I've seen here that we just got from a citizen.
Okay, just to staff, if I could, was there an indication that we will look at this, just for clarity?
Your worship, without direction from council, I wouldn't look at this intersection that was presented, but if council wants to provide direction, staff will work it into the work plan and have an evaluation and provide it back to council.
On a point of order, we have a motion on the floor, though.
Motion on the floor. Well, let's deal with the motion on the floor, and then we can come back.
And I seconded the motion that's on the floor, that we include a review of the intersection as given by Mr. Appel.
Then I would like to ask that those be done in seriatim. One, that we receive it, and two different questions.
I'm happy with that.
Okay, who moved it? Did you? Who was the mover?
George.
Councillor Anderson. Councillor Anderson, are you happy with those changes? Or what's your choice?
I think we should do it seriatim.
Okay. So,
So, Your Worship, maybe I can provide some clarification. We have a motion on the floor. Why don't we vote on that motion? And then if council chooses to give us further direction, we can make another motion.
okay, that's what I suggested earlier, but let's do that. So, the motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Your Worship?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion that we have staff do a technical review with Mr. Appel's option for the Northfield intersection, and to sit with Mr. Appel, and so he can explain it. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on that. Councillor Kipp, do you want to say any more?
Nope.
Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. While I respect Mr. Appel, usually when you have someone bring you some evidence, for want of a better word, or some design, they would recite their credentials to you. They would tell you why they're qualified to make these designs and why they would ask us to prefer them over engineers. And I haven't seen anything like that. I've just seen Mr. Appel come and put up the picture, and then having council respond immediately to that in the face of, I don't know, maybe a couple of years' work on this. We reviewed it some time ago. Council endorsed it. It's going ahead, and suddenly we get one delegation from one guy who doesn't recite any credentials, and we're deciding to do not only an about face. This is, it's been suggested we do an about face, but also that we spend more money, because that's what it is when we ask our staff to do these reports. That's spending money again for no valid reason, nothing that we can actually hold up in front of us and say, this is why I want this opinion reviewed, because this opinion is equal to this opinion, because the credentials are the same, and they're not. And I would be very reluctant to spend any money responding in this way to a suggestion from a citizen. Much appreciated that people take the time to do this and bring it to us, and our staff can look at it, and if they had thought that there was a lot of merit in this and enough merit that they wanted to stop and review the whole thing, great. But they haven't done that, and we have to rely on the expert opinion of our staff. People go to university, they pile credentials on, and we need to give some deference to those opinions that are brought before us. And when we do this time and time again, pander for no clearly legitimate reason, then I have to really question on what basis we would make that kind of decision 2 years into this project.
Okay. Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have some misgivings as well. We've done this in the past, and it tends to go on and on and on. And what I'm afraid of, well, we're talking time and money. But what I'm afraid of, I'm not afraid, but next week, well, what if someone else comes up with another plan? Are we going to look at that one? And another plan? Are we going to look at that one? I just think that the credibility of staff is taking a beating here, because they're probably sitting there biting their tongues, because I'm sure they've gone through many, many hours of looking at this with all the experts. I have a real problem not taking staff's opinion on this. I might entertain an anecdotal report as to why this may or may not be a good plan that has just been presented to us. But I certainly wouldn't want to spend $50,000 or $100,000 looking at it. I mean, I can see that there's, I mean, when you're involving the province and you're involving the train tracks and on all the standards that have to be met, I'm sure something is jumping out at staff right now saying, well, we can't do that because of this, and we can't do that because of this, and we want to solve this reason because of that, and they won't have a chance to explain that to us. So I would rather just see a very small report handed to us explaining the pros and cons, and that's it. I don't want any time or I'll have to vote against this. In fact, I don't know what the motion really is for. How much time and money are we going to spend on this, taking a look? That's a problem I have. I don't know what this means. We're going to take a look at this other presentation by Mr. Appel. So unless I get explained as to what this plan or this report or whatever is going to entail, I'd have a hard time. I just don't want a lot of money spent on it. That's all. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Kip.
Well, thank you. I have to rebut some of the comments I've heard. Qualified is an interesting term. During the dam safety stuff, Lauren Gale spoke. Of course, he didn't have his papers, so his viewpoint was just washed off. So he got a certificate, and all of a sudden now he's an expert because he got a certificate. He wasn't an expert before. We're looking at options here, and paper's cheap. This is on paper. And we seem to spend, if we talk about having a staff of competent traffic engineers in our staff, why did we have to hire consultants for this? We're spending money on consultants. Safety is not cheap. And to look at options on this, and get another expert opinion, it's just ludicrous to me that we can sit here and say that, just dismiss that because we spent money already, and God, we can't spend any more. You want to get the best thing is you spend time on design, you spend time on looking at things. Our traffic transportation committee, that we're writing up $2 million worth of work on a plan, how many of the people that sat on that committee were experts in transportation? I would suggest we take the view of non-experts every day. At this table, we take the view of non-experts every day when we sit here. So to sit here and just go unqualified and go with a plan there, I pointed out that it won't really improve that safety, and maybe you can contradict me with an engineer's report, but that plan we got on paper here wouldn't stop many of those rear-enders because they'll still stop there even if they have an acceleration lane. It seems to move everything upstream with another lit intersection that people will jump through. You're adding another light in that area, so people can turn.
On point of order, I think the question in front of us is whether or not
So
to
would
ask
the
staff
mayor
for...
rule on the point of order, please?
Yeah, would you please?
The point of order is what?
Is
that
that he's off topic, that the topic of the question is do we want a further report from our staff?
Okay, and can you read, just a minute, let's get the motion read so everyone can hear it. The motion before us now is?
Your Worship, the motion, as I understand, is to conduct a technical review of Mr. Appel's proposed design for the Northfield Boundary Highway 19A intersection.
So on a point of order, Your Worship, my peer here said, I'm just talking to her points mostly. So she was allowed to bring these points up, but I'm not allowed to rebut them in a debate. I just don't understand this constant point of order. I used the points written down from this speaker.
It's called Robert's Rules of Order, and I asked the chair if he would please rule on whether
And he doesn't know what that is. You've asked 20 times in 2 years, and he still doesn't rule on it.
Well, we'll rule on it now, and we'll accept Councillor Brennan's position, and not yours, Councillor Kipp. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. I would just then like to direct a question to either Mr. Goodall or Mr. Rosen. How much time do you think you would have to spend on this request, and how much? You know, we've got 2 years where nothing is going to happen here. Is it?
So, Your Worship, I'm going to start, and then I'll let staff add to it, because it's an important point that in order to build trust with council, and at the end of the day, we actually have to have an expert sign off on the drawings. We can't just have a drawing from the public or a drawing from staff. We need to have someone sign this off. Just like on the dams, when we get to a design that's going to actually go to dam safety, it actually has to be signed off by an engineer that's an expert in the field that dam safety will expect. So we can't do this review without actually including all of the partners that are included in it. And it will take some time, and it's the staff time for sure that's the biggest drain. And at the end of the day, we would have to test Mr. Appel's design, if that's what council would like to do, and have an expert in the field sign off that it will work and will be safe and meets the objectives of all the partners that are involved in this. It's not an easy task to actually unwind this and go with a design that I'm sure has been thought about in the designs, and we can provide you with a higher level on whether Mr. Appel's design was considered and what that looks like, but I'm not sure that will satisfy Councillor Kipp's desire to actually have a complete redesign. So that's the challenge that we have.
Okay, you done? You're not. Go ahead.
No, that means then basically what you're saying, that if someone, an engineer with a lot of experience, would come along and say, hey, there are some other options, you would prevent us from finding out?
Your Worship, absolutely not. But I think we do fall into design paralysis when we get to this point, when people think that we haven't considered all of the options. We're providing you with staff's expert opinion on what we believe is the solution in this intersection. After a considerable amount of time, after considerable input from Ministry of Transportation and Highways, who are absolute experts in this field, after consulting with Southern Rail and all the railway user groups, and I think that we provided you with what is the best solution for the taxpayers at this intersection.
Okay, one follow-up and then I'm done. If Councillor Kipp softened his motion to ask for just a general critique from our own staff on what Mr. Appel has presented, surely it would not take a lot of time or a lot of money to at least tell us whether the basics that he is pointing out are valid or not. That's all I'm after.
Is there a comment from the engineers that, or Mr. Swaby, whatever your preference, your call?
Your Worship, if that's what council would desire, we would be happy to supply that to you.
Well, that's up to Councillor Kipp at this point.
I asked for a technical review. I didn't ask for a bunch of consultants. If we have staff, they can technically review it.
But that's a cost.
Councillor Johnstone.
Thank
Are
you.
you finished? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sorry, but this whole discussion is totally, here we are staff is asking for a delay, pending further discussions, pending further investigation. I watched our staff, Mr. Goodall and Mr. Rosen, and they seem to be interested in the remarks that a citizen has made this evening. And I think we're going way overboard here. We're going to leave it with them, pending further discussion, more investigation, and I'm quite sure that our valued staff will take a look at our interested and committed citizen to perhaps incorporate these if they find them useful. And I just think we're wasting our time. I won't support calling in further consultants and delaying this. It's up to, I think, staff at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brennan.
I would just like to say that this, bringing something like this to the political level is not the way it should go. It politicizes a question that isn't a political question. If Mr. Appel believes he has a better idea, he should be going to our staff and talking to our staff. But to come to the politicians and ask us to second guess 2 years worth of work from our staff, it's just politics. It has nothing to do with regular everyday business. This is a question for the staff. Isn't this a better plan? Let me talk to you about my plan. They can talk. It's not a political question. It has no business being in front of us.
Okay, Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This motion that we just are discussing is about a funding shortfall, and the project is put on hold. And during the period of time that the project is put on hold, until such time as there may be an additional funding source established or discovered, there may be opportunity to reduce the cost of $2.9 or $3 million. That's why we have to delay it, to a hybrid or something that might be slightly different, but not 100% different, and that may be valuable to investigate whether we can do it for 2.5 or 2.6 or 2.4 or closer to our end target that we had worked toward over the last 2 years. So I don't know what we have to lose by investing some staff time to discern whether or not this revised intersection may be able to be integrated into our intersection somehow that's been proposed to bring the price down and to get the job done. So I don't know what we have to lose. And this is semantic, and we are making this political, obviously, for anybody that's listened to the last 20 minutes. And I don't know what we have to lose. So I'm struggling with why we wouldn't want to entertain a design, regardless of who introduced it. And I certainly don't want to extend an olive branch of a couple of pages, notes, summary, to somebody that a member of our community that invested time into introducing what might save us some money. I think that's kind of noble. So I'll be voting in support of the motion because, I just don't know what we have to lose by entertaining this.
Oh, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thought I might take the last word on this one, but I think that what Mr. Appel has done, it's interesting, but there's a process that we go through, and the process is that we have our staff go and do something, and there's a process which people go and put in their details and the engineering and so on. I'm not an engineer. There's no one at this table who I believe is an engineer, and I don't feel very comfortable saying that we've just seen a drawing put forward at this council meeting and that we're prepared to go and say we're going to look for more information based on this one drawing. If that's the case, I think we may be getting drawings from Councillor Greaves and other members of the public as well coming and saying, well, I have a better idea for how the water park should look in our city as well. So I'm not going to support it, but if Mr. Appel does feel that he feels that his design is appropriate, I would be fine with him going and sitting down with our engineers and talking about it, because as the recommendation says, we're here tonight to receive for information the Northfield Road, Boundary Avenue, and Highway 19A report. There's nothing else that we're here to do. We're not talking about reconfiguring the roadways. We're here receiving a report from something that council's already approved. This council as a whole has already said that it wants to do something about this area, and that's what we're doing. And so I'm fine with keeping it the way that it is, and I won't be voting in favor of the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, and I will not be supporting the motion either. The motion, as others have already mentioned, is to delay the project and delay it for quite some time. During that point, we may find there are funding opportunities available that might change the direction which we want to go. But right now, we're simply advising everyone, and certainly council, that the Northfield Boundary Highway 19A update is that we're going to do nothing for possibly as long as 2 years. Yeah.
Would you like me to read the motion on the floor?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, the first
one is, but I'm saying that, well, go ahead. But I'm saying that I've already mentioned that I'm not going to support this next motion on it, because what I was trying to explain, and didn't explain it very well probably, is that I think staff have committed about 2 years or more of work on it and a great deal of money. I'd like to see this one through first before we look at other options. Question on the motion. All those in favor? Oh, I'm not. We have Councillor Bestwick, Councillor Patchy in favor. Opposed? We have Councillor Anderson, Councillor Brennan, Councillor Greaves, Mayor Rattan, and Councillor Johnstone. The motion fails. Moving into the ammonia chiller failure at the Nanaimo Ice Centre. Purpose to obtain council approval for the transfer of funds to purchase a replacement ammonia chiller for the Nanaimo Ice Centre from Facility Development Reserve funds. And there's a staff motion.
The transfer of up to $160,000 from the Facility Development Reserve for the purchase of a replacement ammonia chiller for the Nanaimo Ice Centre, and amend the budget bylaw to reflect the proposed transfer.
Okay, is there a seconder? Pick as one. It could be Councillor Greaves, possibly. Discussion. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question to staff. 2007, this occurred, and we've been dodging a bullet since then.
Councillor Bestwick, not necessarily dodging bullets. We're hoping that it would last. The supplier believed that we weren't sure what the lifespan would be, so we had to continue to see how it would go. We're inspecting the unit periodically during shutdowns. It was this year that it didn't make it past this year,
And
so it had require repairs.
The intent is to purchase and leave on site and not install it unless we need to install it because of another potential failure?
Worship. We have two of our facilities people here. They can actually, if you want some detailed questions on how the chiller is, Art Groot and Mark DeMecca for facilities, they can give you some more details. I wasn't sure particularly how, so if council wants to know exactly what's going on with the chiller and how it's failed.
I don't need to know exactly, I pretty much know what goes on with the chiller, but are we going to leave the chiller parked in a crate? Mm-hmm. And if we need to replace the fractured chiller, so to speak, then we will do that only if it fails to work?
No, Your Worship. We believe that the repairs this summer, we think it's going to get through this year at best. We're hoping it'll get through this year. So we know we're going to have to replace it during shutdown next year. We've got it up and running. Our hopes it'll run through this full season, but the intention is that we will replace that chiller at the end of this operating season.
Thank you. If I may, Your Worship, then in 2012, is this the same chiller that we put into the Cliff McNabb Arena in 2012?
The one we're proposing to go out for tender is similar to the Cliff McNabb Arena chiller.
And does the one that we just installed at Cliff McNabb have an alarm mechanism on it in the event that there is an ammonia leak?
All of our chillers have the alarms for ammonia leaks.
With the exception of the one that was installed by Fraser Valley in 2006?
Go ahead.
Your Worship, the ammonia actually got contaminated inside the brine. So there wasn't actually an ammonia leak inside the plant itself. It was inside the brine system, the water.
Which was discovered in 2007?
No, that was just discovered this summer.
So in 2007, the ammonia chiller lost its brine charge as a result of a drain valve being open, which resulted in corrosive damage?
That's correct. And then we refilled it, and then we charged it, and then we've been running ever since then.
And And so there's no requirement to have any type of an alarm, because when we have the potential to lose ice, what is that, between a $10,000 and $15,000 bill?
We've got alarms, yes. The DDC system, digital control system, has alarms, yes, on the ice system. That does alarm us when the temperature of the ice drops. Or sorry, raises.
And this system will not have an alarm on it?
Oh, no, it will. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, I see no further questions. The motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The 2014 Sport Tournament grant request, and minor hockey, to be introduced by Councillor Johnstone, the Chair of Parks, Recreation and Culture Commission. Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move Commission's recommendation that Council approve the expenditure of $1,100 to the Nanaimo Minor Hockey for the Pee Wee Recreational Blades of Steel Tournament under the 2014 Sport Tournament Grant.
Seconder. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just curious, we have delegated to our sport tourism some of these requests and intakes and outtakes and everything else. Are we moving away from this and passing the torch in 2015, or are we continuing to have multiple places for the same request to land, find a home?
Mr. Harding, you want to go with that?
Your Worship, Councillor Bestwick, Council approved this a couple months ago that in 2015 NEDC will be doing the grants. This is the last of our 2014 funds, so this will be. We've got a little bit left. If we have another application in the next few weeks, we'll run it through 2014. But this should be the last that we'll see from PRC.
Thank you.
Okay, again, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into Community Heritage Register update. Purpose to present Council with an updated Community Heritage Register, including 3 additional buildings recommended by the Cultural Committee and Heritage Commission, and the motion is that Council adopt the amended Community Heritage Registry, which is your attachment A. Councillor? Okay, moved and seconded by Councillor Johnson. See no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. This is actually, sorry, now there's the minutes of the Parks, Recreation, Culture Commission meeting held 2014, July 23.
Move adoption of the July 23rd minutes.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? And secondly, the minutes of the meeting 2014, September 3. Move that. And second that.
Move the minutes be adopted of the combined meeting of the Cultural Committee and the Nanaimo Community Heritage Commission held on the 3rd of September.
Moved and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now we move into bylaws with no accompanying report. A motion that Heritage Building Property Tax Exemption Bylaw for 223 Commercial Street, 2014, number 7198 be adopted.
So moved.
Move. Seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And I move that property tax exemption bylaw 2014 number 7201 to exempt certain lands and buildings from taxation be adopted.
Second. Okay. No discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into correspondence.
Question period.
There's no council appointments. There's no notice of motion, is there? And so overleaf. Councillor Bestwick, you removed this item, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a different issue, isn't it? That
no, Your Worship.
Oh, no, that one's been struck.
You're
sorry.
correct. Yes, being
yeah,
removed.
and I was just looking at Mike Horn, but that's been deleted as well. And so we really need to get right into question period. We don't need to, but that's next on the agenda. Mr. Taylor.
Fred Taylor. Sorry to take you back to the discussion of Northfield and boundary and the highway, but both plans have no left turn from boundary to Northfield. Where's all that problem going to go? Where are you going to put more lights? What other intersections to handle the left-hand turn from Boundary onto Northfield? And are you going to put up signs a couple of blocks away, the other side of the school, to tell people they must use the lights in another intersection and put them onto Bowen? Or where are you going to put them?
Well, the project has been delayed, as you know, from the motion, and you know, we may have the luxury of a little bit more time to consider options.
I would think 3 lanes, 2 lanes going to Northfield on Boundary. And I seen something in Victoria, and I haven't been down there for a while. I don't know how new it is, but it sure appeared to be very brand new. Was when you get a left-hand turn arrow at an intersection, the lines light up. The center one is yellow.
Really? I haven't seen that.
And the center one is white with those LED double cat lights about every 4 feet. When that arrow goes out, they go out. No more left-hand turns. Now, whether something like that will work in here to, and 2 lanes going towards Northfield on Boundary, they give you a left-hand turn and let it line up, stack up, and the right hand stack up. And lights at that intersection. I think you've got excellent experts here that can put some more ideas together and look at it. It really shines that lighted line.
Interesting suggestion, yeah.
And it's where you, on Millstream, where you go towards Costco or Home Depot.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Langford.
Yeah.
Is it? Now, the other question I wanted to ask is, you made an amendment to 4989 Wills Road. You made a 219 covenant amendment. Was that 219 covenant established through a public hearing process at the rezoning time?
I don't know. Is staff aware of that one?
Would you not have to go back to the public to change that? You've made an agreement before the public in a public hearing. And I would think,
Mr. Lindsay, do you
especially a covenant, if you want to change that covenant at that public hearing process, you got to go back to the public because everybody's party to that 219 covenant.
Mr. Lindsay?
So, Your Worship, there is no legislative requirement that you must go back to a public hearing. For many years, that was Council's policy. In the last couple of years, Council's revised it unless we're amending the use or density in the covenant, that can be done through this process, through the notification and through simple council direction. So we're following current council policy.
Wouldn't the density change from one property to the other when you're switching the size?
I don't know. You've heard the
It
staff
sounds
response.
like you are. If you're changing the size of one property and enlarging it and making it, you're changing density.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Robert Fuller, 3350 Hammond Bay Road. This has to do with 9F, the water chiller. It's on page 93 and 94 of the agenda. In 2007, in July, a failure due to the result of loss of brine charge due to a drain valve being left open, corrosive damage to the tubes inside the chiller. As the chiller was still under warranty, why was it not replaced at this time?
Okay, Mr. Hickey, did you?
Your Worship, we didn't. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Mr. Hickey here. Okay.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Mr. Hickey.
At that time, we had Fraser Valley Refrigeration do an assessment, and you couldn't really tell how quickly that unit might corrode or may not, so that was recharged with brine and continued in its operation. But we knew, as we know today, that we only got 8 years of life out of that.
So when Fraser Valley Refrigeration could not diagnose the full extent of damages or ramifications to the lifespan of said children, again, I'm wondering, if you've got a warranty, why not replace it at that time? If I've got a warranty on a coffee maker and it explodes, I'm going to bloody well take it back to the place that I bought it at and replace it with a new one. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I'll leap forward to July 21st, 2014, when the 4 tubes inside the chiller were corroded due to an ammonia leak into the brine water, and there were no alarms. Is this product equipped with alarms? And if so, why was the supplier not contacted and the insurance claim started at that time, 7 years after the first failure, rather than just providing a $50,000 quick fix, as this was just a short-term option? Again, the report states the failure was due to the result of an incident that happened 7 years ago. Could not this report have come to council, say, even in July of this year, rather than Mickey Mouse it with a $50,000 Band-Aid? And is it not commonplace to replace items under warranty with new serviceable functional items, rather than piecemeal them together?
What can you do with the warranty issue?
Just in response to the work we did in the summer, so when that leak was discovered, which actually, as the arena staff explained, or the recreation staff, where the ammonia worked its way into the brine. So when we found out that the ammonia charge was low, we did have our refrigeration engineers come to the site, not engineers, but the refrigeration contractor. So they diagnosed that as the problem being a leak in the chiller. We did need to do an immediate fix there. So it takes about 14 weeks to order another chiller. So we did need to do that repair. That repair we're working to get through MIA, our insurance agency, to put a claim in for that. And so we did that immediately because we had groups waiting to come into the arena, and now we need to work on the replacement of that chiller.
Sounds rather Mickey Mouse together. It should have been replaced 7 years ago when it first failed. Thank you.
Okay. And seconded. We stand adjourned.